When I first played Judgment back in 2019, not once did I think, man, this game will be so much better on next-gen consoles. Now 2 years later, I'm back in Kamurocho to resolve some cases with a few updated visuals. Whether or not this is reason enough to return to the case, I feel like it's important to highlight just how gorgeous this game is no matter which version you play. Still, I should preface this by explaining that this updated version highlights realism, which delivers on the overall impact of the narrative.
We look like the type to hang out with cops?
Huh. Who said anything about him being a cop?
Oh, well, oh, fuck.
Judgment introduces us to Takayuki Yagami, a young lawyer who has just gotten his first client acquitted, only to realize that he just made a huge mistake. Haunted by this action, he quits his practice and focuses on establishing a detective agency with ex-Yakuza Masaharu Kaito. The two do their best to make ends meet, but find themselves in the middle of a string of murders and no real suspects. Each chapter of the game has Yagami pulling at the thread of this case, only to realize it keeps getting longer and longer. The connections run deep into the world that he knows all too well, but without proper evidence and motive, there's nothing he can do. He's ultimately a character who never gives up, and small leads are enough to keep him motivated to dig deeper. This makes him many enemies in the long run, but his desire to see things through is stronger than receiving a few black eyes along the way. In many ways, you can see this as an idea of redemption from his past, but he's also fueled by his dedication to do what's right. Further, he is indebted to those close to him, which keeps him going in the long run. I feel like he's such a good lead for this game, as he has faults and impulses that make him a much more personable protagonist. While gameplay takes place in the setting of the Yakuza series, Yagami approaches situations much differently than Kiryu would. He's much more strategized and calm during infiltration missions. The main story is also the biggest offering, where side content is more of an optional feature than something you'd typically look forward to in a normal Yakuza game. Yagami also has a more casual way of interacting with people. You see, they aren't scared or intimidated by him. It's enough to make the adventure feel different, even if it shares the same setting. Further, there are additional detective skills in place, which introduces the biggest issue with the game being the telling missions. I know this is a huge thing in the world of detectives, but I wouldn't say I liked these missions at all. However, I did enjoy navigating certain areas through the first-person mode to investigate scenes, as well as using evidence during interrogation to get questions answered. There were also some drone missions, which of course turn into a minigame. Now, let's focus on the next-gen version of Judgment, as I feel like these updates provide a completely different experience compared to the original release. The developer really went in on color correcting, effects, and overall lighting to make this a far more realistic version. It just feels like there's a more sense of realism here, which added impact to some of the heavier scenes. The game is not subtle on its storytelling. Even though I've played it before, I couldn't help but cringe at some rather unsightly scenes. Even during the fight scenes, I felt myself pull back as if I felt the impact of some of the punches and slams. The 60 frames per second lend a hand to this feeling, but ultimately, I think the realism does a much better job at selling the dramatic narrative than the previous version did. When playing the PS5 version, I felt there was far too much vibration in the controller and ended up turning it off within the first hour of playing. It just got a little old when everything I ran into caused my controller to shake. Judgment offers its share of distractions and side content to sell the idea that Yagami is a detective, but I feel like it only takes away from the impact of the main story, and I could have just easily done without it. However, I didn't mind the missions that led to dates, so maybe I just enjoy action or love with nothing in between. Judgment on next-gen consoles provides a completely new experience through some amazing visual updates. I was genuinely immersed in this world, and I felt more attached to the narrative than I ever have before. If you have yet to experience this game, then do yourself a favor and play this version. On the other hand, if you're looking to run around Kamurocho again as Detective Yagami, then this is the perfect way to replay the adventure. However, it won't make you a fan of the trailing missions. I'm sorry. Noisy Pixels giving Judgment on next-gen consoles a 9 out of 10. Thank you for watching. Please read the full review at noisypixel.net. Noisy Pixel is run by a group of gamers who work hard to deliver news, reviews, previews, and more. Please subscribe to keep up with all our future content.
Noisy Pixel.